nice mix. A lot of people that say both, right? Why
Ooh,
argue over the
Yorkshire
both?
tea. I'm more of a Tetley's person.
Awesome. And I think it's leveling off, so we can probably jump in. Again, for everyone who
Let's do
just
it.
joined, I'm Evan from the BuzzSumo team and lucky enough to be joined here by Lydia. And Lydia has an awesome call planned for you all today. Before we dive into that, I got to talk about BuzzSumo just for a minute or so. So if you are not familiar with BuzzSumo, we are your all-in-one PR and creative content solution. So we want to take awesome data and not make you have to sort through it and be a part-time data analyst. We want to help you just do your job better, quicker, faster. So if you're manually trying to find journalists to reach out to for your client, stop doing that. Give BuzzSumo a try. There's a free trial on our website. You can use our media database to instantly find journalists who are about any topic. You can even sort them by type of reactions they generate, which is a new cool feature, how much engagement they generate, and really hone in on the right people to work with. If you want to understand and unpack your coverage, you're doing that manually, you're using Google Alerts, use BuzzSumo because we're going to help you understand the impact of each article and find more coverage more quick than anybody else. For whether you're doing content ideation, we have a ton of tools for that. Aggregating content, BuzzSumo will be a good fit for you. There's a lot we do, and that's why we offer that free 30-day trial. You don't have to take our word for it, that we're a good tool. We have these great G2 tags and some awesome feedback, people who have used the platform, which is all unprompted, which is the best type of feedback. So we're always really happy to have this and hear good things, people that use the platform. And if you have good experience with it, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you as well. Or if you have a bad experience, doesn't really happen often, tell us about it. We'll try to fix it. That being said, I'm going to hand over to Lydia in a second. Before doing that, just a couple pieces of housekeeping. One is we're going to save time at the end of the call for Q&A. So if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll make sure we can get through as many of those as possible. Louise from the BuzzSumo team, I think, introduce herself, but she's going to be manning the chat as well and posting some relevant links when they pop up. And we will be sending out a recording of this call. Typically, it takes us a day or two to process everything, but by the end of the week, we should have a recording over to you. With that being said, Lydia, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me sort out my screen to make sure that I don't share anything inappropriate. All right. I mean, not inappropriate in a, you know what I mean. Let me just stop talking right now. Awesome. And I here. Here we are. I got it. Let's talk about SEO gap analysis, which sounds like one of the most boring concepts in the world, but it's something that I'm super passionate about. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Lidia Infante. I feel really old saying this, but I've been in marketing for over 10 years. I think this August, it was 11? Too many. It's been too many years. I've been working in media, in SaaS, in e-commerce. I've been agency side, in-house. I started my passion for marketing coming from a BSc in psychology, where I specialize in psychology of the consumer, psychology of persuasion. And then I got a master's degree. Oh, sorry. Master's degree in digital business that was absolutely pointless. I do not recommend going into a master's if you already have professional experience. Currently, I'm Senior SEO Manager at Sanity.io, which is a headless CMS solution. So let's talk about why I like SEO gap analysis so much. When it comes to ranking, it is a zero-sum game. You have a limited amount of space on the SERPs for everybody. We have less and less organic space now that Google has decided to cover it all in ads and SGE. So it's not about how well you're doing, it's about doing better than your competitors. I like structuring my gap analysis in 3 pillars. I like talking about technical SEO. And when it comes to technical SEO, I view it in 2 ways. One side of technical SEO is there to help Google understand the site, help Google crawl the site and index the site. When I say Google, I mean every other search engine as well, but we are like a little bit Google obsessed. And when it comes to, and the other side of technical SEO comes to delighting the user. So investing on core web vitals optimization, having a flawless UX, a fast website, that's what technical SEO is there for. Then we've got the other side, the side of links and brand authority. side of links and brand authority is there to vouch for your content and say, yeah, these people actually know what they're talking about. It all ultimately points to content, which is why we say that content is king. What makes content the king is, or the queen, is that it is what's going to satisfy the user intent. Nobody is out there typing out little things on Google just because people are either trying to get entertained, educated, or inspired. And with content, we're going to go ahead and match that user intent that our users are looking to accomplish. If you're already one of the best at one of these pillars, you don't need to keep digging. Personally, I know that I'm biased towards content. Other people are very biased towards technical. This is why I like to base my strategies on pure data to eliminate my own personal bias that takes me to say, oh yeah, this website needs content. Oh yeah, this website needs EEAT work. Because if we're already the best at content, if we're already the best at EEAT, going further in that direction is not going to move the needle. So in order to establish, do an SEO gap analysis and establish data-driven SEO strategy, we're going to have to answer 3 questions. The very first one is going to be, who are your competitors? And often your competitors are not who you think. Your competitors need to be need to substitute your possibility of demand. How do I explain this? They need to be talking to the same audience that you are talking to. If you're speaking to B2B and somebody that's also in the SERPs is speaking to B2C, you're competing for space in the SERPs, but you're not really competing for market. But if you're not sharing the SERPs, even if you're competing for market, they're not your SEO competitors. Then there's people that look like competitors but can actually be allies. If you find that YouTube is ranking for some of your core queries, the best thing that you could do is upload your content to YouTube. If one of your quote unquote competitors is creating content, search competitors is creating content around a topic that matters to you, maybe you can offer to add your expertise into that content and become allies instead of competitors. So in order for them to be a competitor, they need to be talking to the same audience as you, ranking for the same queries, and actually satisfying the need of the users making that search in a way that you're not longer needed. There's 3 approaches that I talk about when it comes to SEO. In here, sorry, to competitor identification. I'm gonna talk about 2 of them here. They are the most data-driven of all, but we're going to talk about the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. The top-down approach is super easy. You go ahead and talk to other departments and say, who are my competitors? Who do you think we're competing against? You ask the CEO, you ask sales, you ask customer support, you ask product. Depending on what your company looks like, you're going to want to talk to different departments. And then you're going to go ahead and cross-check that list of competitors with your favorite competitive research tool. This screenshot is showing Systrix. Lately, I'm kind of falling in love with Most True Competitor because it's the one that with the top-down approach comes closer to my bottom-up approach results, but that'll come later. Cross-reference it here and find which ones are showing up in the SERPs and which ones are top of mind for your stakeholders. If your CEO had a very long list of competitors and none of them are showing up in the SERPs, make sure that at least a couple of your CEO's competitors make it there just for persuasion sparkle. And then we're going to want to share that list with everybody who participated, thank them for their participation in helping you out here, and ensure that this is the official list of your SEO competitors. Then the bottom-up framework is actually a little bit more interesting, and it comes with a template at the end. It's also more labor intensive, so you're going to have to work a little bit harder, but it's more precise than the one above. I suggest that you go for the top-down framework if you're new to a company and you need to build relationships between departments. Go for the bottom-up framework if you have time, and precision matters to you more than relationship building. So you're going to identify what are your target keywords, what are you trying to get your users to do online. And you're going to download the top 10 results from the SERPs for those keywords. Then you're going to measure out of the total SERP opportunity. So if you have 10 keywords, you've downloaded 10 results for each of those keywords. You've got 100 possible spots. What percentage of those spots each of your competitors dominates? You're going to want to cluster down those keywords by topic and do the same by topic, because in some cases you might be competing with different, if you have an array of different products, you might be competing with different people for each of your product verticals. Here's a lovely template that will help you get this done super fast. This is what I meant when I was talking about measuring the presence of your competitors. This is for a little bit of consultancy that I did for a fintech, and the results did not surprise us. And you can find the whole methodology of how I work with competitor analysis, the 3 methods, how to choose one, when, which one, in that link. Okay, so now we've answered the very first question, which was, who are our competitors? Our second question is going to be around SEO benchmarking. How do we compare to our competitors? We're going to try and reverse engineer their strategy, see where they're investing their time and what they're getting right. I'm going to show a few lists. It's going to look full and a little bit overwhelming, but I'm going to be showing practical examples. So you're going to be able to actually take this and run and do it on your own website this very afternoon if you want to. Because we're going to be following the pillar structure, I'm going to start talking about how to measure content benchmarking. Some of the metrics that I like to use is the number of keywords that are ranking between 1 and 30. It's a good way of evaluating traffic value. The estimated key, I should change the slide because I always make a mistake here. What's really valuable is to grab any of your favorite SEO tools, any of your 360s like Ahrefs or SEMrush, and try to divide the traffic by type. We want to make basically 2 cuts. We want to look at branded traffic versus unbranded traffic. You're going to measure branded traffic by going onto the organic keywords that the site is ranking for, typing down the brand name and variations of the brand name, downloading the spreadsheet or checking the estimated traffic for branded, and then everything else is going to count as unbranded. And that's our first differentiation. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to want to understand where the traffic is editorial. Now, we're not going to be looking on a keyword by keyword basis. We're going to have a little browse around our competitor's website to understand their structure. So I know that the editorial traffic is usually going to be on /blogs, is going to be on /resources, or similar pages. And product traffic, this is a little bit different depending on the vertical that you're in. For me, because I'm in SaaS, basically anything that's not branded or editorial is going to be product. So I make that little subtraction. But if you are on e-commerce, you're going to want to go and measure what's your product traffic and where is your category traffic as well, and then lay it all out. And you perform a keyword gap analysis. This analysis shows you what keywords your competitors have in common between them that you are not ranking for, or that you are not ranking in the top 10 for. And this can really help you understand where you are missing content. And another thing that I like doing is once I have the estimated editorial traffic, I like to count the number of URLs and understand how many estimated organic visits they get per URL. I call this editorial efficiency, and what it shows me is how much they invest in their content quality and do they have an SEO in there trying to steer the ship, make the best content briefs possible, and edit in an SEO optimized way. So this is the example of what the content benchmark looked like for me at Sanity when I joined them in June 2022. We had we were like mid to bottom in terms of total estimated traffic, but we were absolute leaders in terms of total editorial traffic, which was quite a nice surprise. We found that we had also the most editorial efficiency. So our pieces of content were the ones that were driving the most traffic per piece out of our entire market. But we didn't have the most editorial URLs. We're actually mid to bottom. So it is pretty obvious looking at this data that what we needed to do was create more content, keeping up the same level of quality, and we were going to be able to take even more of the market. Now, we also want to look at brand metrics. We want to look at the number of referring domains and the number of backlinks, and we want to measure what the link gap is between our site and the site of our competitors. We want to measure, we want to take a look at domain authority, even though it's not a ranking factor and it's a manipulable metric. We want to take a look at it and keep an eye on what our competitors are focusing on. We want to evaluate what's the rate at which our competitors and ourselves are growing in links. And something that I like to do as well is measure the projection of, at this rate, in 6 months, what is the link up going to look like? At this point, I also look at a couple of things that are more related to brand and less related to links. One of those is brand search volume. So how often are users searching for my brand name instead of my competitor's brand name? And branded traffic. Something interesting happens when you look at brand search volume and branded traffic. I'll show you on the next slide. And on the slide after that, I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of a qualitative research that I do when it comes to understanding brand positioning. So this is a bit of a brand benchmark that tells me how we're doing in terms of branded traffic, backlinks, referring domains, etc. There is an interesting thing happening here. Our biggest competitor is getting 19,000, basically 20,000 or organic visits estimated in branded traffic, and they have 900 searches on average for their single brand traffic. Then we are mid to bottom in terms of branded traffic, but we are mid-high in terms of brand search. What is happening? Queries that include our brand name, and, for example, sanity pricing, sanity features, sanity whatever else, careers. We didn't have those pages, so we had to create them. People that were looking information specifically about our brand were missing out. And then, of course, the link growth rate in this market is pretty wild. Personally, it's the highest that I have seen in my career. And projections tell me that in 2 years, if the current link growth rate remains, we're going to be leaders. Now, if we want to be leaders a little faster, we're going to have a little bit more, we're going to have to do a little bit more of digital PR work. There's nothing else here that's much more interesting. We can look at the numbers of referring domains and backlinks, but that's not going to tell us that much more about the story. Now it comes to the qualitative side of things. Something that I like to do is understand how brands are positioning themselves. So I look at their H1 and I look at their meta description. You can look at more things, but these are the two things that I have found tell me the most about the way that the brands are positioning themselves, especially for SaaS. So for example, when I joined, our H1 was content is data, which to me didn't mean much. We had that Sanity was a unified content platform. We called ourselves a content platform. And our goal was like the selling points that we were showing in the meta description were around real-time team collaboration and creating engaging digital experiences. Now, other competitors we're talking about them being headless CMSs, and about how fast you could work with them, or how they would help you organize your content across every vertical. All of these page ones and meta descriptions have changed since then. This market, in the last year and a half, has been trying to redefine itself pretty heavily. And it's really interesting keeping a pulse on this and understanding how your competitors are evolving their positioning too. I like doing these gap analysis every quarter or every 6 months, depending on how busy I am. And I always find it really satisfying to take a look at the way that we have changed the way we talk about ourselves and our competitors have too. Now, when it comes to technical SEO, this is really hard to measure because what matters is going to depend on the type of website that you have, the type of technology that you have. But the goal of a gap analysis is to create some standardized metrics that you can benchmark yourself against your competitors with. So I really tried a lot of different things when it came to technical SEO, and I found that a standardized metric that worked for me was combining Core Web Vital scores with page speed insight scores as well as manual checks. This would indicate to me the level of investment that each of those brands were having on their technical SEO, rather than just, do we need more content, more links, just understanding how much this brand is investing so that I can dig a little deeper and see if I need to invest more too. So the standardized metrics that I found were looking at the percentage of URLs that Core Web Vitals, the Chrome UX report gave me for each of the 3 Core Web Vitals for each of my competitors. I would then average it out here on the Core Web Vitals score, and then I would bring in page speed mobile, page speed desktop. In here, I would say we're mid to bottom, but it's kind of in the middle. The point of this, and what I said quite early on, was that we need to outrank our competitors. It's not just about improving our own quality, but understanding where we're doing average or below average than our competitors at. And then once you've identified that pillar, nailing it down. When looking at the benchmark results, it was pretty obvious to me that where we were consistently mid-low was in brand. So we needed to work more on creating branded content, on creating brand awareness, and building those links. So now what? We have a beautiful spreadsheet, but without execution, there's no ROI. No matter how many pretty analyses you make, if you don't go ahead and actually give this a purpose, it's wasted time. So let's make a plan so that it's not wasted time. This is step 3, the third question that we have to answer in this webinar. How are we gonna outrank our competitors? We have identified our weakest pillar. We know that it's brand in the case of Sanity in June 2022. We're gonna have to understand why we're not performing so much. So diving a little bit deeper, I pointed out in the numbers that people were searching for concepts around our brand that we did not have the content for, so they would go somewhere else. You want to control as much of your brand information as you can. It's not okay to rely on third-party sites to give information about your brand that should be coming from yourself. So we created a little bit of that and we bridged the gap a little bit. We worked on a little bit of digital PR and link building and bridged the gap a little bit further. And we've continued doing actions in that direction. So once you've roadmap how you will improve, you need to get stakeholder buy-in. Now imagine me, 2022 June, I come there fresh face. I think I look younger than I am. I go up to the CMO and I go like, hey, can I have 100K for a few campaigns on digital PR? And I'll just go and control our brand messaging that we're putting out into the world. Me, the new girl. I wouldn't go ahead and do that because A, that budget is not reasonable for an experiment or something that's not proven to provide predictable revenue in my specific brand. And then I don't have the trust of my stakeholders to touch on something so complex and rich. So just start with a pillar that requires the less buy-in. For me, that pillar was content. Ta-da, we're back to content. Because I don't have to interface with developers and get my tickets prioritized. I don't have to get buy-in from brand and 30,000 layers of approval to get anything done. I can go ahead and create a content plan that's going to drive traffic in a high quality way, that then drives pipeline for us. So I went with content. Now that you have the plan, it's time to execute. You've got a template here so that you can fully make it yours. You only have to put in the exports. It's all beautifully conditionally formatted, so you can go ahead and create your own gap analysis today. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Lydia. That was awesome and jam-packed with information. So I always like to remind folks, so what I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out a recording of this call because I'm sure you're going to want to watch again and go through it a bit step by step.
I hope you liked it. I was too thirsty towards the end of the presentation.
And it always happens to me. I have a cup of water
I
myself.
know, yeah.
What I did like about it is it's very tactical, and I like that you mix different parts of SEO. People like to bang the table about just focusing on quantitative or qualitative or content, or different tactics, and I think it's actually a holistic approach. Hopefully, everyone listening in felt the same way. What I'm going to
Yeah,
do
it's
is
true. There is no magic trick. There is schema's not gonna save you. AI is not gonna save you. It's all contextual based on what your users want and what your competitors are doing.
That's a great message. It's funny because the message maybe doesn't sell as much. People want that one magic trick that's going to change their SEO forever. And when you
No,
talk to people like you that really know what they're doing, the answer is no. You got to work at it. I think you said it. Without the execution, you're
exactly.
not.
Exactly. I think there is like it's such a broad skill set that you need to actually get all of these actions. Because I think you need critical thinking, of course, to be able to come to the conclusion that like take a step back and say, oh yeah, ranking is just outranking. Data skills to be able to grab the data and turn it into insights. But you also need soft skills to convince your stakeholders. You need project management skills and you need strategic planning skills. And I think that's what truly turns a junior into a senior or mid-senior team member.
It's really interesting you say that, and we're going to do a Q&A in a second. So what I'll tell everybody is put your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Question I have for you, Lydia, because I think that's kind of a fascinating part of it, not just for SEO, but for anything. And I look at my own career path and think about how those soft skills change over time and how the changing impact that it'll have in the business. For your journey, how were you able to grow it? Was it just a process of doing it and being critical and thoughtful about the results you had?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I was terrible at ownership when I started my career. I was like, I always thought of myself as like the little, very special, smart genius sitting around in a table on my own. And because it made sense and because I was smart, we had to do what I said. Now, it's not executed, but I've already told you to do it. Not my problem. That's not how it works. That gives nobody results. That gives nobody career growth. Um, my manager at one of the positions that I held about 6 years ago, she sat me down and said, Lydia, you're so smart, but we are thinking of not renewing your contract because you lack ownership. What are we going to do? How do we fix this? And I was like, oh my God, my sense of worth is broken. I went on Google, how to have ownership of things. I take feedback very seriously and I seek it out proactively. But that was the first time that I had like a moment where I knew that I needed to work on skills that were not just hard skills like data analysis or learning SEO best practice or understanding code. Um, but I had to work on aligning myself with the business. Another skill set that I had to learn was what's best for the business. It's not always what's best for SEO. Sometimes we're gonna have to not do things perfectly up to best practice because investment wise, it's not gonna deliver ROI. And if it doesn't deliver ROI, like that's it.
Yep, it's hard sometimes. You put a lot of effort into something and a lot of research, and you're so convinced that
Yes.
you're on the right path, and you're wrong. Like for a variety of factors, right? It could not be your fault. The world changed.
Yes.
You're wrong, and it happens. I
And I
think as
really
you
love having a perfect score in a site audit score. Those 100s, the time that have happened to me, they're just so satisfying. But sometimes you're gonna have to live with a 75 and know that that 75 means you're doing your job right because you're aligned with business priorities.
absolutely. And let me share this screen. So again, if you have questions, I see some coming in the chat. We'll try to get to those. Try to put them in the Q&A box. Just makes it easier for us to pull the questions out of the broader chat. But we'll try to get through the ones that are in there anyway. Before we just focus on questions, and a quick reminder on our next webinar, which we're really excited about too. So I'll give you all a chance to post your questions. This is coming up November 29th, the week after Thanksgiving for those folks in the US. And this is going to be a roundtable, what you need to know for marketing success in 2024. I'm really, really excited about this one. It's going to rank right up there with what Lidia did today, I think. We have Ant who's our in-house AI expert decision, but also a leader of a lot of industry trade groups. Ross Simmons, who's been on this webinar before and is just someone who knows, I would say knows everything about content marketing, but also has been a really impressive voice at like trying to predict the future, like what's happening next. We have Ginny from Spin Sucks, who is just an excellent resource for all things PR, and Ann Smarty from Smarty Marketing. We're really excited to have everyone. It should be a fun call. Make sure you sign up. We'll send a sign up link to everyone who joined today.
Absolutely join this webinar. Ross Simmons is an absolute genius. I love Anne. Ross has actually seen this presentation that I just gave today. He saw it live at MosCon, and he made like a few comments about it. He really, really liked it, the strategic approach. But I am obsessed with his newsletter, and all the content he creates. I saw him at MosCon this year too, and the way that he impressed everybody and rocked the stage, he did like something that was essentially an AI magic trick in front of all of us. I'm not going to reveal it in case he does it for the webinar, but it blew our minds. You should have seen the audience just like jaws dropped all over the place. Join this webinar. This is going to be amazing. It looks so good. I'm going to be there.
Awesome. And yeah, I have to ask Ross about that too. That magic trick. If it's with the webinar now I'm just curious on my own.
Ask him what he did to finish his MosCon presentation. And
Yeah, I
why I'm
will.
still obsessed about it. I texted like 30 people about it.
All right. So join the webinar. It may or may not have an AI magic trick, but we'll get it over to everyone regardless. All right. We're seeing a bunch more questions come in, so let's get to a few more of them. Let's see. Hey, from anonymous attendee asked, "Hey Lydia, any tips for the recent helpful content update and how to manage that?"
Um, I mean, I have an AI tip, an AI-based tip. You can go ahead and download the quality score document from Google. Put it on, if you have ChatGPT Premium, you can go ahead and feed it PDFs in a way that doesn't really spend context tokens. Go in there, paste a couple of URLs that have been heavily impacted, and ask ChatGPT to score those URLs according to the appropriate sections of that PDF. Because the content is ours, where we can be very biased. I know that I've made content in the past that was done more for search engines than for users. Right now, I try to lead my content strategies with with a user journey in mind. So I try to bring in a team of people where we put ourselves in the shoes of the users, trying to accomplish one specific task. Like let's say you're in e-commerce for clothes and your user, Anna, has a party to attend and she wants to look gorgeous, but she doesn't want to draw too much attention. She wants to look very pretty, but she doesn't want to be like, oh my God, am I overdressed? Right? But she still want to look gorgeous. So what is she gonna do? What is she gonna Google? What is she interested in? Anna's going to a party and she needs an outfit. I'm thinking she's gonna start Googling party dresses, how to dress for a cocktail party. Um, she might Google accessories that like elevate your outfit and that kind of stuff. So just putting yourself in the brain of the user, and trying to understand what their pain points so you can write for them, not for Google. It sounds counterintuitive, and it is counterintuitive. It is a little bit tricky when Google representatives say write for users and not for Google, and you go and say that's not right. You've historically rewarded the wrong thing, and I don't want to be at the bottom of the SERPs. Therefore, I'm going to look for a balance. I always say that Google speaks English and they speak HTML. Well, it's HTML, it's JavaScript, it's JSON, it's code, okay? Um, and they're trying to pick up patterns that say that the content is helpful. And now, after the trial and all of the monopoly trial things that are coming out, we know that they're using user behavior to understand whether the content was helpful or not. I don't know exactly how they're using the behavior. We don't know. There is an excellent article by Cyrus Shepard on this. But one of the things could be if I've Googled best party dresses for autumn or fall, if I'm American, um, and then I go like I click a result, I spend some time in the result, and I Google it again, I know that that result has not satisfied me. If I refine the result, like if I refine the search a little bit further, maybe I learned something in that piece that has helped me understand better what to search next. So that's not a negative. It's just showing, and if this happens at scale, if 30,000 people have the same journey, it's showing that that page adds something to your information or to your brain model that helps you move forward in your search journey. Um, it's all speculation, of course, but I would say it's a pretty educated guess. Back to the question, because I didn't actually answer it other than the AI tip. You might be putting out content that's not actually helpful. Understand exactly what Google means when they mean helpful. To me, right now, helpful content in a context where AI, so content creation is table stakes, right? Everybody can create content. My parents could create a website, spin it up in 30 seconds with like an AI generator. So that's no longer a competitive advantage for companies anywhere. What's going to be a competitive advantage is having expert authors, actual subject matter experts on your site, communicating that subject matter expertise through schema implementation, um, having an opinion that's not regurgitated from everything else that's on the search, something that's a little bit differential, um, finding alternative ways to communicate the same thing. So maybe instead of giving you the formula of how to calculate customer lifetime value, I give you a calculator and I give you a video of a mathematician that tells you the theory behind this formula, as well as a short article that explains it in an image with the actual formula. And then I'm talking to all of these users that are in this, like, they might have different preferences of how they would like to consume content. But you can even take it a little further and understand that if someone's calculating customer lifetime value, they're probably putting together um, an ROI measurement for a marketing strategy or for a sales strategy. When you're looking at customer lifetime value, what you're trying to understand is if I acquire one customer and it costs me £100 or $100 to get this customer in, how is this profitable? Are they going to deliver 200? Are they going to deliver 101? Because if they deliver 101 and the ROI is positive in every other single way, and it is predictable, I can scale up my investment and know that my revenue is going to grow. So anyway, empathy, originality, subject matter expertise, and don't be afraid to be opinionated. Broaden the formats in which you are delivering your content. And like Ross will tell you on the next webinar, distribution, distribution, distribution.
Awesome. I want to caveat this. I probably know the least on anyone listening on this call about SEO, and I feel like I just learned a whole lot on that answer. There's a lot of food for thought in there, so you got my mind spinning a little bit. That was really cool and interesting to hear. So thank you for that. Going in
Yay!
depth.
I mean, I guess the opinionated thing comes also from my own professional journey. I think it's a bit of a cultural thing, but also a bit of a personality thing. I have been told that I'm too direct every time that I work with Brits or Americans. Even Americans think I'm too direct. And I think that's a little bit of a differentiator, you know? When you're opinionated, you make a mark and you want to make a mark on your users, especially if what you're doing is content marketing. Because the entire theory of content marketing is if you're helpful to your users, you're driving brand awareness and a positive brand sentiment, so they're more likely to buy from you. See, maybe the money wasn't completely wasted on my master's degree.
No, it's never a waste. All right. Another question came in, this one from Isabel, and I'm going to sum it up a little bit in that they are a multi-location website covering the whole of the UK, and they run into a lot of competition from localized competitors. How do you look at something like that where you're working in a space where you're trying to compete countrywide for terms, but you're also trying to compete locally? Does it depend on the product? Do you have like an overarching strategy and how you approach something like that?
Okay, so reading reading the answer as well, what I am seeing is if Google's prioritizing these localized websites is because they probably understand that these people have actual experience and hands-on knowledge. Last year, Google changed EAT for EAT to specify that it's not just knowing because you've read 30,000 books about the best cottages in Scotland, but having been there, right? And these smaller sites that are more local are more likely to have been there. Now, if that's your situation, I would say make sure that you communicate that you've been there, probably with original pictures of the places that you've been to. I don't know why in my head this is a travel website or a cottages website, but that is my advice.
Awesome. Now, another question. I promised to not come from us. Someone actually asked this. Can you share some insights on how you've used BuzzSumo in the past?
Oh yeah, I used it at a large enterprise. Definitely didn't pay for my account. Please don't hate me. Um, I downloaded a series of URLs and I was trying to understand which of these URLs had garnered the most engagement. That is the way that I tend to use BuzzSumo for trend detection and engagement measurement. And it helped me make a business case for how the pieces with the most engagement in our .com market actually match the brands in some of our internationalized markets so that I could get the right prioritization in our web publishing team to get on board with those. Um, but I think that's my most original way of using BuzzSumo. I've used it in the past, and it's always been a classic use case working in a digital PR agency. I used to work for Horizon 7, and I would do it because I wasn't part of the PR team. I was part of the SEO and digital strategy team, and later on the international team. I was trying to find nice numbers to show our clients. I also really, really like using BuzzSumo to kind of like analyze sentiment around things. So for example, I I think you do this with the data on Facebook reactions. I'm not quite sure, but you can see the evolution of heart emojis that Taylor Swift has had since her famous fallout with Kim and Kanye in 2016, um, and her comeback to life in 2017, and her basically like world domination of 2023.
Yeah, that's an awesome use case, and it is Facebook data. I actually did this with a customer on a call recently. We looked up for Travis Kelce, her new boyfriend, who is one of the most famous American football players in the world. They were able to track the evolution
I
of
had
engagement around
not
Travis
heard of this
Kelce.
guy until Taylor started dating.
Well, it's amazing because he was like, at least in America, very famous, but he's now getting 100 times more engagement than he ever has,
I
coming from
know.
already being athletes in the country just in the past month.
You
So the
know what I
Taylor
would
Swift,
have loved to do? Because like my backdoor access to BuzzSumo expired. Wink wink. I wouldn't mind a free account. Um, I would have loved to look when the Barbie movie came out, the brand sentiment on Birkenstock shoes. I don't know if you watched the movie, but Birkenstock shoes make a big appearance. They're like a philosophical concept almost. I have bought Birkenstock shoes after the movie. And I actually looked up the Google Trends data about it, and I think it went up by like 700%. The amount of searches that Birkenstock, the pink light thing, something something model was getting, it went up by 700% worldwide.
yeah, I believe it. We'll talk about getting you BuzzSumo access. If everyone listening in, if you haven't used it, there's a free trial. So just make sure you go ahead and take advantage of it. You get the chance to use the platform before you have to pay for anything. But appreciate that. That was some interesting answers. There's a lot you can do with it. I think this is an interesting question from Paula. Are there, you don't have to name everything, but what jumps to top of mind? What newsletters or accounts do you follow or suggest to stay up to date in the SEO world? What are your favorites out there?
Okay, so I think there are different types of newsletters depending on what you're needing. Some of the newsletters are going to be um, just news aggregators, right? Out of news aggregators, I really like SEO FOMO by Latest List. But I would say there's one that combines news aggregation with absolutely hilarious writing and really insightful commentary. So you know exactly what you're clicking through when you're going to click. That would be traffic rich snippets from Traffic Think Tank. You can join the newsletter even if you're not a subscriber of Traffic Think Tank. And it's written by the amazing, gorgeous, stunning, perfect Jamie Indigo. They are one of my favorite SEOs in the whole wide world. They are super smart, and their newsletter is absolutely hilarious. Every time, every week, they make me laugh.
That's always great. Like, and I love newsletters like that too, where you're getting insightful information presented in an actual
Yeah.
entertaining format. It's hard
But
to
there's a
do that.
couple ones that don't just provide an aggregation, but actually provide a lot of value. Um, Growth Memo by Kevin Indick is an excellent resource. And whenever Tom Critchlow fancies sending out the SEO MBA newsletter, which is whenever, there's a lot of value in that one as well.
Awesome. I'm seeing some more questions coming about recordings. Yes, we're definitely going to send a recording of this call. We can do one or two more questions. One came in from Maria. And to sum up a little bit, it sounds like what they're saying is they're in financial services, savings account, mortgages, and they're getting outranked by aggregators and people put out maybe a lot of lower quality content. Long tail keyword approaches have helped a little bit, but how would you approach a situation like that where you're offering a product, you're up against these people just aggregating a ton of content without necessarily selling a product themselves?
Okay. So Maria works in financial services offerings, and I assume they are a final provider of savings accounts and mortgages. Aggregators have actually absolutely eaten that market. It's really hard. Um, and it is definitely about going for the long tail keyword approach, as she mentions that she's been doing. If you want to be at least present on page one, I wonder if there's anything that you can ideate and come up with that leverages programmatic SEO. So, for example, you can either go with like a programmatic thing, doing a bit of a data study somewhere, combining, aggregating data from the market with your own data. See if you have data that's proprietary that you can combine with external data, turn it into something that's valuable for the user, and put it online. Um, I would say another thing that you could do is think of your market and think of tentpole events happening in your market and become an expert at those. So, financial services and mortgages, savings accounts, every single Bank of England. Oh, sorry, this is international. This is not gonna work for the US. But in if you were in the UK, Maria, um, I would set up a page with like Bank of England updates, projections, polling of like what expert commentary of what the Bank of England's gonna do next. Um, I imagine you're also having I think the Federal Bank something, Federal Reserve came to my head. They're probably changing interest rates as well. Maybe they do it periodically, like the Bank of England does. That is a tentpole event that you can leverage and become an expert in and use those long tail strategies to internally link to your product pages and try and rank there. But I have worked doing digital PR, not directly, my team was doing it for quite a few financial clients. And there's a lot more that you can do than you imagine. Digital PR studies around the value of imaginary objects, or like a new Marvel movie comes out, you wanna tell us like maybe how much depth Disney got into, or what's the price on Thor's hammer, right? That's the kind of thing that I would kind of look at if I was in your position. But unfortunately, finance is a very tricky market to be in, but it's also a very fun market. If you have specific experts that maybe are offering any type of consultancy, give them profile pages and enrich those profile pages with so much EEAT material, schema. Give them your all because your expertise in this case is going to be your saving grace.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And one area where I'm going to do what I do and go plug BuzzSumo a little bit. I think it's interesting you talked about tying into larger trends, like tying in what's happening with Marvel. We have a lot of customers at Buzz, so it's not just a BuzzSumo pitch, but I talk to 1,000 people, a couple thousand people a year that have been really successful with that lately, like trying to find those overall industry trends and then find your part of it, talking about how much a movie costs or the debt they're going into it, just finding those interesting pop culture things. And you can use BuzzSumo to do that through the trending tool. You
There
can do it
was a
other
there was a
ways as well.
happening in Spain that
Yep.
was completely unhinged, okay? And this is me like derailing the conversation, but it's a really good use case of like BuzzSumo and this specific thing. So at some point, and I can't remember what year it was, I don't think I lived in Spain anymore, so it must have been in the last 3 years. Two financial advisors made a YouTube channel. And let me tell you, I don't know much, but I know that those two were coked up to here while they were filming. And they were talking about fixed rate versus variable rate mortgages, and the economic theory behind each. But they were high off their faces, and it showed. So it became a meme, to talk about like if you were gonna go and get very, very drunk or very, very high, you would say that you were going to be choosing between fixed rates and variable interest rate mortgages. Like, oh, what are you doing this Saturday? Oh, we're going out with the lads and we're gonna be choosing fixed rate mortgages. And that was a thing that happened, and a few people were actually really clever about it. Some brands went out with like the real facts between fixed versus variable and what each type of consumer should be choosing, real pros and cons. Those people were like pretty much trying to sell you their shit. So I'm not a good person to invite to these things when they're live because you cannot bleep me out. But it was hilarious. So keep an eye out to what's going on in the world because stupid people make stupid content all the time and it get meme. So go on
Yeah.
TikTok and follow your sector talk. So
Yeah.
theme talk for you.
Yeah, find what's interesting to your consumers, right? It doesn't have to be about your brand or necessarily directly your space. Go broaden it out a little bit and tie everything together. Try
I'm
to
seeing
come
a
up with something.
question about international keyword research. I'm just gonna quickly post um, a guide on this because I'm not gonna go into this during the webinar, but there is a guide for it. So I'll post it. It
Awesome.
comes from Evangelos. Uh, there you go. This is my methodology on how to do keyword research in a language you don't speak.
That is incredibly convenient that you have the post yourself. All right, I think we're about at time. So Lydia, thank you so much for joining. There's so much awesome information. Um, just the Q&A alone was amazing, let alone the deck you did, the presentation you did. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And everybody, you can reach me on like all of my socials. You can find me on Twitter or X, LinkedIn or anything. I'm very friendly. I'm as friendly as I look on camera. And I'll answer your questions.
Awesome. Yeah, again, we couldn't get to every question. Reach out to Lydia. We're going to make sure when we send this recording out, we're sending how to reach out to Lydia directly as well. I'm sure you're easy to find on LinkedIn. And
I am easy to
I still
find.
can't say yes. I'll still say
I
Twitter.
actually have a knowledge panel, which is probably like my pride and joy now.
Join the knowledge panel, everybody. There's so much knowledge just here. Think about what you can get from a whole panel on an ongoing basis. But thanks everyone for listening in. Thanks for giving us some of your time. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Likewise, it was awesome being here.